Welcome back to Platt365. In case you don't remember, I'm Lisa, he's Bob, and today we are talking about the framing portion of our house.
Yes, we did. Our last video was the concrete, was the foundation, some drainage for the foundation, and this week we're all about framing. So we'll take you all the way through the floor, through the walls, and the roof. Our background, just so you know, just so you don't get into a building project and think, wow, this is gonna be great. We have about 20 years each of building experience. We both studied architecture, we have degrees in architecture. We are not licensed architects, but we've designed lots of homes with large architectural firms. So we have a lot of experience. That being said, we learned a ton because we've never built a house for ourselves. If you're looking at building a house, specifically framing, there are three ways to do it. You could try and frame it yourself, which is what I wanted to do, but was talked out of that idea. Or you could hire a general contractor who just does everything. They have their subs, it's great to hire a general. If you want to go that way, I think I highly recommend it after this experience. Or you could do it the way we did it, and you can hire your own subcontractors. Now, we did that because we felt with the experience we have, we would be good GCs or general contractors ourselves, even though that's technically not our job description. Let's just say at the end of the day, we have a very healthy respect for general contractors. And if you're watching this video and you are a general contractor, we thank you for your service. We thank you for what you've done. And we are in no way saying that we know everything. In fact, the more we did this, the more we realized we didn't know.
When you are hiring or using subs that you're managing yourself that come from another area, that typically our friend is a builder. So the subs work for the builder.
Right.
They are a different type of sub than a sub that works for a custom home builder.
Custom home builder will do a lot of different types of homes. Big homes, small homes, modern, craftsman, you name it. And fairly high-end type homes. A builder that's doing, say, a tract home community, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, it's just different. And a builder that does tract homes is gonna have a framer and all their other subs that are very used to doing a specific thing over and over and over. And when you do those things, you can get really good. But if you start doing something different, then you don't have as good of a chance at success. And to all that being said, we are super grateful for the experience. We've learned a ton, and we're in the house right now, so we're very happy with the end product. But everybody should assess this and figure out what's best for you. If you have a very simple house, now we thought we had a simple design. We designed this ourselves with our kids actually, and we thought through how to save money, materials, and from our perspective, we built a fairly simple house. That being said, it wasn't as simple as we thought it was. So let's talk a little bit about the framing process. When you have the most basic thing is you've designed a house, you now are going to order materials. That is more complicated than it sounds. You'd think you would just, I don't know, send your drawings in somewhere and then, they start sending you products, but that is not how it works.
So yesterday was a big day. The framers came, they did a great job. They framed the floor, and Ashley did a great job filming it all because I was running around. I went to the lumber store 5 times, 3 different lumber stores, 5 different trips. So I spent the entire day in the truck, but had to be done because we didn't have everything we needed, and we made it work.
We had no idea that lumber packages were delivered in certain stages. When you think about it, hindsight being 2020, it makes perfect sense. But going into it, we didn't have that knowledge. So lumber packages are typically split into 3 areas. There's your floor package, your wall package, and your roof package.
We made a lot of mistakes along the way. We can't get into all of them, but there's some that really popped out. We sent our material list in and the drawings. The response back was, oh, great, thank you so much. Well, it turns out they charge, I think it's like $150 to do a material takeoff, which is do it 3 times. You need to do this. This is very well spent money. By me putting the list together myself with like this much experience, we caused a lot of problems, and we asked them to do it. They didn't do it. We thought, oh, whatever, it'll be fine. It wasn't fine. So we ended up getting materials that we didn't need, and the materials we needed, we didn't get.
Yeah.
So I had to spend an enormous amount of time running back and forth picking up materials myself because the framers were on site, ready to go without the right materials.
So now that that's framed, they come tomorrow to inspect, to make sure they did a good job. And then today, what are we doing, Ashley?
The roof drains.
The roof drains. So we're gonna do that, and we're gonna dry fit them first. I had a little bit of a head scratcher over here because the way this slope works, over on the side of the house, right here, we have an 8-foot porch that extends out, and we have these drains that come off the roof, hence the name roof drain. But they have to come down and then turn in and tie in here. So everything's tying in here and then getting sent out.
One thing we did not realize was the length of lumber. We thought about the wall heights and calling out, we had 8-foot plates in some areas and 9-foot plates in other areas, but we didn't think about when you're framing a long wall that your framers are gonna want the 20-footers. So that they are not building 8-foot sections of wall to tilt up.
The longer the beam, the straighter the wall. Yeah.
The section, the straighter it will be.
Right.
So those are some items that we did not understand exactly how it worked. We learned along the way, and one little note, if you decide to be the general contractor yourself, make sure that when you have contractors on site, you also have a truck and possibly a dump trailer to make the runs during the day that come up that say, hey, we need, 20 footers all of a sudden, that you can leave and go pick those up.
And you don't stop progress.
Yeah.
Because once they leave the site, you don't know when they're coming back.
Yes.
So you're like, don't leave. There were times when we were making hamburgers for people. We're like, don't go anywhere, just stay here.
One thing for your subs is if you feed them, it does make them happier, and they do tend to show up a little bit more.
The big goal is to backfill so they can actually frame this back porch, deck, whatever you want to call it. And that should be a big project for today.
I guess if you are going to hire subs, sit down with your subs and talk about your lumber package. Talk about what you're ordering before you order it. Because if I had just had that one conversation instead of just assuming I was correct, then it would have solved all that, which would have been great.
Talk very specifically about what is included. For example, the subs that we hired they work for a builder, and they don't frame the decks. We have 3 covered decks on our house.
Yeah.
They're roofed, covered. We assumed that was part of the framing package. They weren't.
No, it wasn't.
We finished this side. We put all the drain pipes that are coming in from off the porch, and we've wrapped it. We've only wrapped it around a little bit here. The biggest goal was to get this backfilled so that we can put the footings down so they can build the deck or the porch.
Another item to know is staging areas for lumber and material deliveries, to know exactly where trucks can and can't get on your building site, and your contractors are going to want supplies delivered as close to the house as possible, which is interesting if you're also trying to do foundation and footing drains and you haven't backfilled yet. You can't get super close, and you need to be able to get a mini excavator or something in to be able to backfill. You can't stack a pile of lumber in the way.
Well, also, so we live on 18 acres, which is great. So there's loads of room to put things, but if you have a smaller site, it gets really like a Jenga puzzle of like where to put the floor package. Oh, okay, the truss The truss truck is huge, and he's got these giant, what are they called?
The booms that go down, they have,
we had an issue because it was rainy where those things were going and sinking into the ground. So we had to like put plywood and rocks, and we had to build things and just so that they could lift the trusses and put them up on top.
Today, the framers are gonna put the subfloor on. We have it all framed, we passed inspection, and now they're gonna put the subfloor on and hopefully get some walls put up because the walls are supposed to show up today too. I am going to be digging the footings for these concrete posts, pads, piers, whatever they're called. They have to be on undisturbed soil and they have to be level. So that's my project. I was working with the excavator, but it's just way too muddy right now. So apparently I'm going to be using a shovel.
Something we didn't do that we wish we had is, you know, what do they say? If you see something, say something. And so there were a few things where we were very conscientious of being like annoying architects, not that we're architects, but in that field where we look at it and we're like, that's not perfect. And there's a little bit of OCD and you don't want to be annoying somebody. You kind of should be a little annoying. It's your house, it's your project. You need to say something. So there were a few times where we'd say something and kind of felt bad about it, but okay, we'll get to that. And then a day or 2 or 3 goes by, it's not taken care of. And then you're like, I don't want to bring it up, and they're busy. And so you just have to say it. You just got to get it out there and be like, hey, we need you to cut these vents. You know, one of the major issues was in the framing that the vents weren't cut for the crawl space. And what those are for is for airflow, so that you don't have moisture issues underneath in your crawl space. Well, as you'll see in the video, there's a lot of rain and then it's getting covered without there being any airflow through there. The entire thing will just mold out and be a horrible mess.
Yeah. Once we were approved, I went to get a couple sets of drawings printed out just at Office Depot, just, you know, nice, easy sets of drawings, but the, you know, large sets. So they have to be on site for when inspectors come, and then you can have a set to give to different trades as they need them. As I was picking up a set of drawings, I saw somebody else pick up a set of drawings that they had laminated.
Yes.
And I thought, that's interesting. And as I waited in line, I thought, I'm gonna get one of our sets laminated. Yeah. I am so glad we did.
It's the best thing we did.
Because you can pull them out, and when you can see at different times in the framing package where the floor is framed, and we literally have the set of drawings open on the floor, and it's raining, and it's getting rained on. Yeah. That was the best $50 ever.
Yeah. We took a couple days off. It was raining really bad, and we had some other stuff going on, but we have the back wall framed, and the entire sheathing on the flooring is done. But we had a problem with the framing, and it was partially my fault. Well, it's probably all my fault. The whole wall got framed out here, but this whole wall is 8 foot tall. The wall next to it is 12 foot tall, and where it meets right here is where we started the framing. I told the framer the wrong dimension, so he started and went that way. By the time we got to that corner, the whole thing was off by 4 inches. So now we got to add 4 inches here, take 4 inches away from there, move the whole thing, tilt it up, and frame it in. So in the meantime, I've been working on this here, sloping it away from the house, and I've got to put the concrete foundation pads over here. That's my project for today.
And there were times where we had to sit there and just stare at things, and again, with our background, you'd think it would have been easier, but there were dimensions, specifically dimensions. That's what we do for a job, is like dimension drawings, and there were dimensions that they wanted, that the framers wanted, that we didn't have. So I do not recommend taking a scale and scaling drawings. That's never a good idea. No. But again, another huge advantage of us doing this, 2 people in the industry with our background, is that we were able to handle those type of questions immediately. So there was no like gap. It didn't take longer and it took us 2 years to build this house.
Not because we didn't know how to read drawings or anything
Well, that's
else.
true.
We
It's not
made
like
those
framing
decisions for entirely different reasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why it took 2 years, but one of the things that helped us is that we have our background.
Yes.
But there's always going to be a dimension here or there, or window callouts was a big one. So as we were framing, as the framers were framing, the question of how big is that window? And you would think, well, it's a 3 foot by 5 foot window. Well, it's much more complicated than that. Every manufacturer has a different specific opening size, and the gaps around those windows are specific. So had I not been there in that moment on my phone looking up the exact manufacturer opening, you know, we probably would have had huge problems. And
Yes.
Now, granted, if you go to a legit architectural firm, they're going to have a window schedule with all that stuff there, or a legit framer, they know how to figure it all out. But sometimes you just got to go with the flow, you know, you got to make it work.
And sometimes just because it's on the drawings doesn't mean that it's going to be built.
There was one time they framed out a window there was a high window and a low window, and they literally looked at it upside down, so they framed it the windows like this. and they were going to frame all 3 walls are supposed to have the same orientation, and so they were about to frame all those walls the same, and I was like, that doesn't look right. So we looked at the drawing, you got it backwards. So they fixed it, you know, they framed it out. But had I not been there on site, you know, it would have been not just the time, but then those headers that are expensive would have been buried in the wall. I would have ordered new headers. It would have been just a mess.
Yeah.
So you hear horror stories of architects coming out once a week, and then, you know, it's an entire week of all that stuff, all that progress has to be ripped out and torn down and redone. And that drives the framers crazy, it drives the architect crazy, it drives the homeowner crazy, there's added costs. So being on site every day is a huge important thing.
So they made a lot of progress yesterday. I think we have about 6 walls framed here. And while they were doing that, I was placing these concrete pads. So I've got them all placed, and now I'm going to go alongside here, and because they're going to frame a porch over this, I want to make sure that it's graded properly, slopes properly, because once the porch is on, I'm not going under there. So that's what I've got going on for today, a little grading, a little backfilling, and hopefully by the end of today I'll be able to keep working on the roof drains.
All that to be said, we have hindsight, right? Because this has been, you know, a year and a half ago. We have all this video we've put together and we've edited, and that includes all the way up until the roofing. And the roofing, I could probably do a separate video on, but I'll just try to sum it up real quick. I wanted to do the whole thing myself, all of it. I was talked out of the foundation, I was talked out of the framing, but I was like, okay, from then on, I'm gonna do it the rest. So the next thing was the roof. So I get up on the roof to put, you know, I watched all my YouTube videos, I get up there, I start putting the paper down. Something inside of me just said, no, just don't go up here. I wouldn't say I'm afraid of heights, but I got up on that roof and I couldn't stand up. I just couldn't function, and it took me like 3 days to do what should have taken maybe 2 hours to do. And at the end of it, I ended up asking the framer, hey, do you know anybody that does roofing? And so he gave me some phone. No, I interviewed a couple guys, and the guy came out and he did a great job. Thank God I did that, because I don't know, I was terrified. I shouldn't say I was terrified, but
Bob turned into a spider.
I couldn't stand up. I was like scooting along.
Like a butt scoot across the roof the whole time.
I was scooting. It was not productive. And so anyways.
Not comfortable.
No. And so anyways, the guy came, and in like 2 days he did the whole roof. It was crazy. But our roof is very simple, so there's not a lot of like valleys or gables or anything. So that's the end of our framing video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and hit us up below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell so you can get more videos. Next week, I don't know what we're doing next week, but not framing. It'll be the next step, which may be electrical and plumbing, I'm guessing.
Probably electrical and plumbing.
Yeah, maybe sheetrock.
HVAC.
Maybe sheetrock, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not sheetrock.
Probably not sheetrock. There's quite a lot that goes in the walls before
HVAC.
sheetrock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, great. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.